This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
The road to $100,000 heads west to the entertainment capital of the world. We're from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 2 of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Happy to have you along for the ride once more as we prepare for 134 laps and 200 of miles of action this evening right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Evan Pasoko, joined alongside by Tim Terry and Randy Chennett. This evening, our director tonight is Hugo Louise, and Tim, coming off of our annual season opener at Daytona, starts to get a little bit more real right here and right now as we take our first look at these cars on an intermediate track in 2019.
Yeah, glad to be back, Evan. And when you look at it, the butterflies from Daytona, they're now all in the rearview mirror. We get to set into a groove and get into a rhythm with this race at Las Vegas. We'll see a little bit different racing than what we saw at Daytona, but I'm sure we'll see some of those familiar faces near the front of the field.
America's Racing Showplace, the first of many 1.5 intermediate tracks we're going to see, Randy, over the course of 2019, which is why Daytona, well, certainly if you had a good result last week, it's going to help you out for 2019, give you a good boost, but it is not the end-all, be-all. Certainly, this is, I think, going to be our first real good look at what these drivers have brought to the table, and no surprise that it is a full field, all 40 eligible drivers getting set to start tonight's Las Vegas 200.
Yeah, certainly not shocking at all to have everyone out here at Vegas. Vegas is always popular amongst the drivers, amongst spectators as well. It's a track that really does supply some good racing. Nice couple different grooves between the bumps you have down low up against the white line, especially through 1 and 2, and the slightly smoother trip around the racetrack you often get up around in that middle lane. I will expect to see cars in both places all night. It's going to be, I think, a really action-packed race tonight. First time we're going to see tire wear likely play a big factor in one of these events.
We will stay west the next couple of weeks. March 12th, we head to Fontana, California, into the Auto Club Speedway. But tracks like Texas, the Kansases, the Charlottes, all those 1.5 milers going to be critical if you're going to build up a strong 2019 campaign. So tonight could be your first step in the right direction in terms of that. Of course, you mentioned Daytona. If you missed it, let's take a look back to 2 weeks ago with this week's iRacing race recap of our season opener. Keegan Leahy wins for a third time. Michael Conti is headed to Homestead. Gotta love this time of year. It's a new era in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, and it starts right here and right now. Let's go racing from Daytona. Green flag in the air on 2019. It is Chris Overland through the gears for the first time to turn 1. And it looked like a very coordinated pit stop as you see now your race leaders come in. Here comes from the race lead, Ryan Luza down pit road and contact as he tried to get into the stall. He got into the 17 there. I don't think either of those drivers are going to get a speeding penalty, but Michael Guest took a shot there in the left front.
The 62 of Keegan Leahy actually goes down to that bottom groove, and no one comes with him. All the race leaders putting him in the rearview mirror.
Here just going to have a complete mutiny to the outside of the racetrack as he tried to work with him. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 cars going on by race leader 5 now as his teammate Jarl Tien goes on through. But Michael Gass, second time tonight, he's made the outside line work. And number 17 fast it all forward to the race lead, pushed by Kane Cook. Casey Kerwin in line as well. And Garrett Lowe now maybe with the race high as he ends up 4th at the line. And you need enough cars that you're going to have enough draft support getting back at it onto the racetrack. We're also not having too many, and there it is. Race leaders in. It's Michael Guest. It's Kane Cook on the 17. Blow the pit road. Race leader Michael Guest is in the grass. And 1 lap to go for the World Series Racing as we hand out the first checkered flag of 2019. Pace car in. Green flying in the air for Zach Novak. 1 lap to go.
Cars fanning out all over the place, 3 wide in your mid-pack. We got cars around, but we still are running and finishing this race under green. So your mid-pack piles up, but about your top 10, top 12, they are able to stay in it, and Zach Novak will be getting pushed. Ryan Luza will lose his health. It might just come down between Zach Novak and Jimmy Mullis if they run off a 2.
And down the back straightaway they come. Luza, no help from second. Falls to the wayside. It is a 4-car breakaway on the inside line. Novak leads atop the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. Third in line is Keegan Leahy as they come into turn number 4 for the final time. Where's the move? To the outside goes Mullis. Novak tries to hold the bottom of photo finish. He's got it. Zach Novak, first win of 2019 for Roush Fenway and takes home the $1,000 prize. As we get set for round number 2 to get underway from Las Vegas, final couple of minutes in the practice session start to wind down. Do want to welcome Eric Hudek into the Race Spot TV booth, the iRacing lead vehicle dynamics engineer. Eric, thanks for giving us a little bit of your time and welcome up into the booth with us. Before we get underway here, just want to bore you, ask you a couple of questions. First and foremost, kind of introduce yourself. How long have you been with iRacing and what's your background? I understand you did come over from the NASCAR Cup Garage.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to be with you guys tonight. Yeah. Well, I've been at iRacing for about 10 years now. My focus has primarily been on the oval side, developing the high-level NASCAR stock cars as well as short-track cars, but also high-level open-wheel cars within the service. Of course, I also dabble in almost everything vehicle-related at iRacing, but these have generally been my specialties. I also spent significant time working in the racing industry. I've worked at the manufacturer level, supporting Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series affiliated teams, as well as a race engineer and performance engineer in the Cup Series for a couple different organizations.
I know there's a lot of buzz around this 2019 season. Can you talk a little bit about the changes to the cars in iRacing coming this next season and how those changes are going to impact the racing compared to prior seasons in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series?
Sure. NASCAR has made some pretty substantial changes to the NASCAR Cup Series cars this year, and we remain committed to replicating these changes at iRacing. Really, that's our MO, to stay true to the real cars and emulate how they behave on the racetrack as exactingly as possible. Thanks to great partnerships with NASCAR, the manufacturers, race teams, we've been able to collect the right bits of information to put together a really great package that we hope will be exciting to race. As mentioned, the changes to these cars are fairly large this year. The important details are significant increases in aerodynamic downforce and drag, as well as a reduction in horsepower at racetracks larger than a mile. Basically any oval track larger than New Hampshire. Horsepower goes from about 750 horsepower last season to around 550 going forward. At short tracks, though, engine power will remain the same as last season, but the additional downforce takes effect across the board. What this includes is primarily a much larger splitter, bigger radiator pan, along with a much larger rear spoiler. These changes should be quite evident just by looking at the cars even before feeling them out on the racetrack. The expectation is that intermediate speedway tracks like Fontana, Texas, or Charlotte, cornering speeds could be quite a bit higher with lower end of straight speeds. The idea is this will promote closer racing, and in development testing, that's exactly what we've seen. Of course, the cars will respond somewhat differently at each track, but I think these changes should really mix things up. Drivers will need to adapt their approach to racing by having to manage their cars in congested traffic. Racecraft, I think, will be essential to getting competitive going forward with these cars.
We certainly look forward to see how all of this plays out when we see it for the first time in 2 weeks from Auto Club Speedway. We're on the grid, so we'll let you get out of here. But again, we very much appreciate your time, Eric, and hope to catch up with you again soon.
Thanks so much, guys.
That is Eric Hudak, the iRacing lead vehicles dynamic engineer. And of course, we're going to see those new cars in 2 weeks. But tonight from Las Vegas, let's take a look at your starting grid. Brad Davies does end up on a pole position for this one. He'll lead Zach Novak, Nick Ottinger, Keegan Leahy, Jarl Tien to the top 5. To the green flag this evening, Logan Clampett, Nathan Lyon, Ray Alfala, Brian Schellenberg, and Matt Busa. Going to run out your top 10. The entire starting grid will go across the bottom of your screen as we get set to go racing for just one final time with this current build on the iRacing service. It'll be a whole new ballgame in 2 weeks' time, but it is tonight as well. The first intermediate race of 2019. Pace car to the safety of pit road, and the field is in the hands of Brad Davies and his Junior Motorsports Chevrolet. Green flag in the air. We're racing from Vegas, round number 2 of 2019.
What a start by Brad Davies on the inside to pick up that lead. Ottinger will now move to the inside on Zach Novak as they battle for position number 2, coming up out of corner number 2 as they all fan out behind, trying to find a place to race right now, Evan, and get some green flag laps in.
Currently get these cars up to speed. First battle on track is for second. You'll see the whole field come through 3 and 4 at 185 miles an hour. First lap lead does go to your pole sitter in Davies. On board right now with a side-by-side battle outside of the racetrack. It's the 99. Logan Clampett up top. 47 and Nick Ottinger on the bottom of the racetrack. Clampett making his first start of the year for Burton Kligerman Esports, and he completes that pass and takes over third. Another driver with one of the new teams in 2019. That's Jarl Tien Randy in a battle just inside of the top 10 also.
Good to see Jarl pushing up front. This is one of those races last year where we saw Jarl really show good speed early in the championship. Luck did not go his way, though. Gotten an issue, actually, at this end of the racetrack in 1 and 2 of the lap cars. So for Jarl Tien, who's in a position to win that race last season, I think there might be some unfinished business here tonight. I expect him and his G2 Esports teammate of Keegan Leahy to be strong.
We'll see how this race plays out. Still very early on. All 40 cars who took to the grid were able to make the start. They all run right now within 4.5 seconds of one another. There's Leahy making a move up on the inside of the racetrack around teammate Jarl Tien. They run positions right now 6 and 7 with Tien bringing up the back of that group. You also see in front of them Ray Alfala. Somehow quiet, but through 4 laps, up 3 positions. He started in 8th and right now currently leads in the number 5 spot as you start to see these lead cars get a little bit of space and single file out for the first time.
And you know, Evan, he didn't have the Daytona that he won at Ray Alfala, and right now running comfortably in the top 5, though Keegan Leahy on his back bumpers. We have a battle up in front for the lead position. Brad Davies now has Zach Novak on his back bumper. Zach Novak obviously had the Daytona that he wanted, came out clean and out in front, and now wants to lead some laps in Vegas as he looks to the outside on the 88.
Takes a peek to the outside of the racetrack for Zach Novak in the Wyndham Rewards number 6 Ford, tucked in line second. And Brad Davies really isn't having an opportunity to run away at all. Clampett's also at the back end as you go on board with him. The top 3 cars still only separated by 0.2 of a second. So close to that outside wall as they now power down the Dallas straightaway and into turn number 3. Novak, I think, going to be pressured into making a quick move on Davies, because if he doesn't, Clampett's going to be right there all over him. A fight for second maybe on our hands before the 6 is able to get up and fight for the lead.
Have to wait and see, because I expect that we're going to see a couple of these guys be really aggressive, especially if we see those cars running 4th and 5th on the racetrack get up and into this fight, as Davies, maybe a little tight off of 2, gets right up against the wall, and I think just didn't scrub any speed. Almost a perfect exit, as Novak's going to run the middle, and Logan Clampett's going to take advantage. He's going to show the nose up off of 4.
Trying to hold the inside line. It is going to be more difficult for him to get back and into the throttle. You see a lot more side-by-side going on throughout the pack as Clampett unsuccessful in his first bid for P2. Tucks back in line, and some of those other fights towards the middle of the pack also single filing out. You see Jarl Tien thinking about going to the outside of Alfala's Wood Brothers Ford, but then opts not to. So in fact, single file for a majority of the field. Driver's Tim certainly going to use the apron on the front stretch here at Vegas to try to make some moves, and you see somebody peeking down to the inside but not necessarily going for it was Ryan Luza, tucked in position number 8 right now. The flip side tactics entry, he's all over the 66, 3 wide for the race lead. You see it at the front of the screen there. It was Clampett to the inside of Novak as Novak went to the inside of Davies. Neither of those moves worked, but what a look as now the 6 peaks back down on the inside again.
Novak was in a precarious position there on the inside of the 88 of Brad Davies. Kind of pulled his foot out of it a little bit. He had Clampett to the inside. Now Clampett gets a run down the front straightaway. We're 3 wide again down into corner number 1. As they take it 3 wide, the 88 of Davies will get the run off the corner. Clampett still trying to get that inside line to work right now, Evan. Hasn't been able to do it successfully, but he's still there down into 3.
Certainly going to be committed to it. You wouldn't think that continuously going down low is going to be good on those tires. Long run, Randy, as we go side by side now. The 6 on the left-hand side of your screen with the onboard shot. And then, of course, as he works with Clampett down on his bottom, one of the first points you made at the start of the broadcast was tire wear, something that is really a non-factor at Daytona International Speedway. Not here at Las Vegas, though. And Clampett squeezes up, and he's got it. First change for them between 2nd and 3rd position, and it's Clampett's 4th position to gain this evening. Took a while, but finally the bottom work now, and now he sets his sights on Davies, who's led all 11 laps so far.
That Burton Kligerman Esports number 99 is hooked up, at least in the early parts of the run, as through 1 and 2. You're going to see him go nearly 3 abreast again as Novak's up against the white line. Logan really hits that apex late. Going to set himself up for a nice straight exit. Actually gives Brad a bit of room coming off of turn 2. Doesn't get the run he may have expected, but he's going to make that move for the race lead in 3 and 4. Takes it for just a moment, but Brad should have momentum off the top. I think that 99 will hold on to the lead at the stripe, though, and indeed he just does.
He takes the lap lead. Clampett now in control. Is he going to be able to clear? Yes, he does. So new race leader at lap number 13, Logan Clampett. First race of 2019, and he has already got laps led on the board. You look out the back end. I don't think Brad Davies is going to shy away much at all, but I mean, that 99 has been hooked up and on a rail. I'd expect him to get a little bit of distance here now as he gets some clean air and tries to pull out just a tad bit. Another driver who's moving nice and quick, Ryan Luza. Mentioned him just a little bit ago in position number 8. Well, since then he's gotten 2 more up to P6. And next target for him, the 62 of Keegan Leahy. As he'll get your race leaders outside of the windshield of the 53. Luza, fastest car on track last couple of times by, +5 from the start of this race.
While your top 3 battled for that position, it closed in at 4th, 5th, and 6th. Nick Ottinger is now on the back end of the 6th of Zach Novak as he goes to the inside of Brad Davies as they battle it out for that 2nd place position. Looks like that inside line is going to work. Move Novak up to position number 2. But as they battled, Evan, looks like Logan Clampett's getting a little bit smaller in the windshield of Zach Novak and the rest of these drivers battling for 2nd on back. Davies takes a look back at the 6th for position number 2. Can't get it to work. And oh, by the way, here comes Ottinger, here comes Keegan Leahy, and here comes Ryan Luza.
Yeah, first real time we've talked a ton about Nick Ottinger. He's been right around there all race long. Started 3rd, holds 4th position, and maybe just one of the quieter cars as there's a side-by-side fight behind him. Luza to the inside of Leahy, and we might end up 3 wide here. No, the 47 up on the outside of the racetrack kind of pinches that 62 in. That might work out in favor of Luza here. He'll get 1 spot, maybe 2 now, as he ends up on the inside of Ottinger, and despite that inside lane, he's going to be able to get back to the gas in time and lead a side-by-side fight for that position across the start-finish line. Luza now up to P4, a race high for him as Leahy goes through pretty quickly, completes a pass on Ottinger, who's now fallen down 3 spots.
Definitely starting to see some of these cars that are fast, at least in the early points of the run, getting their way out forward. Ryan Luza and Logan Clampett, the 2 ones up at the head of the field that have really been noticeable. It'll be interesting to watch, though, as we get deeper into this run. Both of those cars have been favoring that bottom line. Once we get 25, 30 laps into the run, about midway through this first fuel trim, how is this going to hurt these guys in the long run? We've seen it many times, Evan. Some drivers come out, get themselves to the front early, and then for the last 20, 30 laps of that run, really struggle and start to fall off. We'll say that 99 car, though, has done a fantastic job, got himself out to nearly 0.6 of a second lead over that second-place running car. We're still seeing Ryan Luza pushing his way forward as he fights with the 88 for third.
We saw a good battle, Busa mid-pack, but up front we go at it once again. Luza continues to power on the inside. It's the same lane that Clampett was making his passes on as he went from P6 to the race lead, and it is the same line that Ryan Luza has used to go from 11th on the grid to now 3rd, just 19 laps in to this Las Vegas 200. So we'll see as we start to get more separation how long this speed is going to last. Certainly wouldn't think that somebody like Luza, who tends to be one of the better cars as far as balancing early speed and not tearing up that equipment for a long run as well, I wouldn't expect him to fall off, but Clampett now 0.7 of a second, Tim, ahead of the rest of the field. That's Novak still in second, and then Luza going to be in 3rd position there. Davies sticking with the 88, ends up P4, so intervals up front as you see mid-pack, not as much separation, but certainly Clampett, Luza, 2 big names to keep an eye on going forwards. Bobby Zelensky was somebody else who we're looking at mid-pack. He's also gone into the green, past 4 cars since the start of this race, and wants to get one on Alfala, but it's not going to happen. Big block by the 21 as he protected the inside.
Ray Alfala wanting to keep that position over Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky going to try to roll the top here and try to take it away, but Ray Alfala falling back a little bit from the first opening laps of this race. Now on lap number 21, he battles for a top 10 position still, but it looks like he's just hanging out right now. Zelensky goes to the outside line. You talked about drivers coming and going. Ryan Luza coming to the front. We saw Brad Davies lose 3 positions on the exchange from the battle for the lead. So some drivers in the first 15 laps of this race feeling out their race cars, maybe using the tires a little bit more than they want to on this first run, Evan, as Ray Alfala continues to hold that inside with Bobby Zelensky on the outside. Christian Chalner there as well.
You look out front of Matt Busa's entry here. Teammate just in front of him, Brian Schoenberg. The Williams eSports cars continue to pretty much run in tandem with one another. They've got a front row seat to this battle that sees to the outside of the racetrack. Challenger making a move on Ray Alfala and completing that pass now for 10th and 11th position. So as Busa and Schoenberg try to exchange it amongst themselves, Ray Alfala has dropped 3 positions from the start of this race, having recently been passed by both Zelensky and Challenger as a couple of pairs of side-by-side racing come down the back stretch outside the better lane in that exchange as the 5 of Busa may finally have gotten the upper hand on Schoenberg.
Sort of the middle of this pack here around the 10th spot. Everywhere is just absolutely insane. Side by side, up and down the field. Jimmy Mullis about to get in amongst the Williams eSports teammates of Busa and Schoenberg. Schoenberg pushing a little bit on the entry into 1. That gives that 46 car a bit of an advantage, and off of 2. Down the Nellis straightaway, Mullis will have the momentum running on that top side. You also have Taylor Hurst, Ashton Crowder, and Michael Conti all in this little gaggle as well of cars as they still fan out side by side, and Mullis looks like he's going to get clear of the 55 off 4.
So far, so good. Tons of great action as you see Conti now dive down to the inside of the racetrack. A little bit of work to do compared to his Junior Motorsports teammate who started this one on pole. Davies in P5. Conti has gone the wrong direction after starting 13th, runs in 17th at the moment, but there are a couple of spots to be fought for as you see the 74 Hurst go by on the outside. Also down low on the bottom of the racetrack, Ashton Crowder trying to make a move with the little bit of a tail end happy that time, but a turn 4 as he tried to stay in the throttle. 25 laps in now, uninterrupted. A green flag racing. You're going to start to see that handling now go away, and those cars get much more loose as opposed to how locked down they've been to this point. You get some side-by-side action. Conti on board, right-hand side of your screen.
And as they battle side by side in the middle of the pack, we had a brief exchange for position number 4. Keegan Leahy going to move up 1 over Brad Davies at the front of the field. It seems like there's a little more a non-sense of urgency. The middle of the pack, you're trying to get towards the front, get up towards the top 10. As you see Taylor Hurst and Brian Schoenberg battle for that position. You ride on board with Michael Conti. Great little battle here mid-pack as they continue to fight towards the front of the field. They'll work lap number 27 up off corner number 2.
And this group here, mid-pack, is kind of where most of the action has now become. The leaders have spread out a good bit, couple of car lengths in between at least the first 3 or so. In fact, now a battle inside of the top 5 with the 88 of Brad Davies once again trying to play defense. It's the 47 of Nick Ottinger to his inside. So there's another side-by-side exchange. The JTG Daugherty entry down on the bottom of the racetrack. And Davies, who again started from pole, you really can't start much better than that, Randy, but at least on this first run and in traffic hasn't been the best of cars. He's going to have to deal with not only this 47, but Jarl Tien's right there. Both those cars, the 47 looking low and the 66 kind of patiently hanging back as now you go on board with Tien and P7. Both those cars have kind of caught up at the same amount of speed. You see the cars in front of Davies pulling away. 88 missing a little bit about halfway through this first run.
Yeah, definitely seems like that. The 88 car maybe not having that pace he had in just a single lap overall speed to get himself into that pole position. And we're also seeing that sort of upper groove coming a little bit better as well. You see the 47 of Ottinger really run that bottom line very well this time through 3 and 4. Makes up a lot of time on that orange, white, and black number 88 car of Brad Davies. We've been talking about since the drop of the green flag, the cars who have themselves built maybe for short run speed, we're starting to see some discrepancy. Logan Clampett's dropped down into 30.4s. Zach Novak's reeled in about 3/10 the last couple of laps. So some of those drivers we saw come out on absolute fire at the start of this race, maybe at the point where they're going to start falling off just a little bit.
The entire field still only separated by about 10 seconds between your race leader, Logan Clampett, and 40th place runner, Casey Tucker, who's at the back. You talk about a 200-mile race, 134 laps on the board this evening from Vegas. And at this pace, going quickly through this without any incidents so far to report at this time. I think a majority of the field now starting to get a little bit more space as you take a look off the back end of that battle again up front. That's the back end of Nick Ottinger in the 47 machine. In 5th, Brad Davies, having lost that position, now runs in the number 6 spot. A little bit further back, how about Nathan Lyon, somebody else we haven't talked a ton about yet. The number 4 Chevrolet in a battle right now with Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky inside, and he'll push up at a turn number 2, and he will take it away to the Interstate Batteries entry of Zelensky. Another position gained as he cracks the top 10 for the first time tonight.
Yeah, the independent's been holding his own right now. Nathan Lyon just loses that position to Zelensky. Busa going to take a look to the inside. Qualified in position number 7, and now sees a little bit of that traffic make its way to his back bumper as he continues to battle. Chalner is in this little battle as well, but Lyon holding his own here through the first 33 laps of this one and keeping within the top 10 as we work forward in this race. Keep an eye on him. Maybe he's got something for the long run if we get a long run to the checker flag.
The 5 machine on the inside, you can see he certainly had the track position about a half a car length up of the 4, but Lyon's able to keep that speed off the banking and rim it around the outside of the racetrack, use that banking to his advantage. I think that this may eventually go in favor of Busa if that Williams Esports driver continues to stick with it down on the bottom. We questioned Logan Clampett making some of those moves down low after it didn't necessarily work right off the bat. It ended up being a good decision, so we'll see if Busa wants to stick with it there. But very much like when we saw that three-way battle for the race lead early, if you're Busa in the middle here, Andy, you can't only focus on Nathan Lyon. You keep taking a couple of swings at him, and you're unable to get there. Right on your bumpers, Christian Challoner in the number 37 machine. In fact, looking to the inside now. So the 5 has got to be careful here, not get fixated on that 4 car in front of him and not open up the door for Challoner, who certainly you give it him an inch, and he will certainly try to take that spot away from you.
It is definitely one of the things you need to be careful of when you're doing these races is if you can't get clear of that car in front of you, sometimes it's best to sort of just ride and almost be a little defensive, make sure you can't get at least, or not open the opportunity for that driver behind to open the nose, as Booth is going to go down to the bottom on Nathan Lyon once again. So maybe liking being up against that white line is that number 5 Williams Esports car. Doesn't really gain anything, but doesn't really lose anything either. And this trio continues just to sort of run in line, keeping about the same gaps they had the previous time around the racetrack. Big gaggle of cars, though, behind Brian Schoenberg in the 55. We got about 6 or 7 cars all stacked up here coming off 4.
Mid-pack is where it all is. The couple of cars down low. The 74 machine right there, that's Taylor Hurst. Mike Conti in the number 8 machine. That's the red and white entry right in the middle of this group as well. And somebody who's kind of bypassed all of it is the 27 Cordy Vincent. So a good run for him in his Renegades Ford, as he's passed 3 cars from the start of this race. You see him there. He's been able to get through this pack here. You've seen, the 74, the 55, and some of these other cars fighting with each other for the better part of the race. I think Corey Vincent just trying to get through, let them fight amongst themselves as he looks on Schoenberg. Certainly going to be someone who will prove tough to pass. Schoenberg down 6 from where he started.
And now that 74 of Taylor Hurst goes to the inside of the 27 of Vincent, the 17 of Guest on the outside. Really, that outside line, nowhere to go right now. Taylor Hurst able to roll the inside a little bit, and look at Vincent taking a little run to the outside of Schoenberg. 3 wide, Schoenberg in the middle, and he's going to lose at least 2 positions, and they're lining up behind the one of Blake Reynolds. Takes a look to the outside.
Looks like a restart. 3 rows just side by side. Going to go down into turn 1, 4 rows. If you include that back pair as well, as Casey Kerwin and Kane Cook wanted to do battle. So everybody stuffed right here. Positions 15 through 21, separated by just a half a second the last time by the start-finish line. And so far, nobody daring to make it 3 wide, but 2 by 2 throughout. You got the one machine pushing Schoenberg to turn 1.
Definitely seems like this 55 car doesn't have the speed of those behind. You see him go up to the top, and the 8 of Michael Conti is going to try to make the move, but Blake Reynolds going to shove it in the middle. 3 wide off of 2. He's going to have to lift out of it. We're going to be 3 wide behind with the 2 and the 14. So 3 wide into 3 and 4 at the tail end of your mid-pack. It's going to be the 14 of Casey Kerwin on the bottom, Cody Bias behind following, and Kane Cook all trying to take advantage of this as Blake Reynolds, an almost aggressive move off of 2, doesn't work out, and he gets himself freight train because of it, and Conti ends up being really the big benefactor, picks up a couple spots and gets clear of the 55.
And Curran belt wrecked that number 14 Ford. He got onto the apron just a little bit. That is not a nice transition from the banking to the flat there. Belt wrecked that car. That's why you saw him drop way off center of the pack, and now he finds himself at the back of this 7 or 8 car group. Schoenberg, not a good run out of 4. Going to put us 3 wide again with the 2 of Cook to the outside and the 1 of Reynolds in the middle. Schoenberg backs out of it, wanting nothing to do with that into the quarter, and it's going to cost him another spot as a battle for the race lead is on. Here comes Zach Novak in the 6 car. He was the first to challenge your pole sitter Brad Davies for the lead until Logan Clampett strolled on through and took it away. But the number 6 Ford has closed the gap, and he's got a nose to the inside, side by side, lap 43.
Evan, he's been chipping away the last 5 laps of that lead, has Zach Novak, and now he is there, takes that look to the inside, but Clampett going to roll the top and take away that lead position again. Now it's a car length between those top 2 as they continue to battle for that top spot, and Novak trying to get around, and it looks like the longer run, Novak's car gets a little bit better. He was good on the short run, obviously started on the front row, but now it looks like the longer run, that car gets better. No, by the way, look back there, Ryan Luce is here too.
And he's only 0.3 of a second off. Not all that long ago, we were talking about a second-plus advantage for Logan Clampett as your race leader. So Novak has turned it back up a notch. Luza's been on this rail since the start of the race. Another 3-way battle for the race lead. Maybe not all that far off of the horizon, but at lap 44, there it is. Pit stops. Clampett gives up the race lead to come down, and right on his bumper is Ryan Luza. It'll put Zach Novak to the race lead, but the first strategy play comes 44 laps in.
And it's a huge amount of the field coming down pit road actually at this lap 45 marker. I think we got north of 20, 25 cars who have peeled off onto pit road. So the huge bulk of the field saying lap 44, lap 45 is the number. Those drivers who are staying out, like Zach Novak, Keegan Leahy, Nathan Lyon, Christian Challoner, and Taylor Hurst. Novak and Leahy really your only two front runners that stay out, and Keegan comes down right now.
Back down into the pit lane comes Keegan Leahy. He'll complete his stop for the first time tonight, and not at all a surprise, as we'll see now a majority of the field, I think, complete their pit service here. Makes total sense to him. We're talking about a 134-lap race. You pit 45 every single time. They get you about 45. You do another stint to 90. That gets you right to 135. So this is the perfect strategy as Novak gives up the race lead to come down. Perfect strategy if your call is a two-stop race.
Indeed it is. The numbers work out really well. Taylor Hurst going to stay out on the racetrack and lead a lap as Novak comes down onto pit road. Looks like Ray Alfala going to stay out on the racetrack. He's got Corey Vincent on his tail as Vincent goes to the inside of Ray Alfala, looking at position number 2 before they come down onto pit road. They got Blake Reynolds right behind, but Vincent trying to take what would be second place right now away from the Wood Brothers 21.
And another advantage, you talk about differing pit stops, that wasn't the thing at Daytona, as now Taylor Hurst will give up the race lead, and it'll now go to the 21 of Ray Alfala, who is engaged in this fight with he and the number 1 of Blake Reynolds. But of course, the short pit gets you on fresher tires sooner. You get back out there and put down a hot lap, while everybody else is still out there on old tires. Now, of course, flip side of the things, on the end of the run, your tires will be a little bit older, but I did like that decision when pit stops kicked off for the Clampett and all those other drivers to come in right at 45. You'll now see Blake Reynolds drop to the wayside if he can. A little bit sideways there as he tries to get it slowed down to pit road speed. He does, as these cars are going to get him woed up to just 50 miles an hour.
So we sit and wait. I actually think we only have a couple of cars that haven't come down on towards pit road. I believe it's just Ray Alfala and Brandon Cattell, the only people who have not made their pit stops just yet. Of course, the 21 being the really notable one there, multiple-time champion in this series, and he looks like he's slowing up, and he's going to make the call here on lap 49. So getting an extra few laps is that 21 Wood Brothers Racing car. And let's see, does the number 80 come down pit road? Answer to that question is going to be no. So Brandon Cattell will be the last one waving that late pit stop flag. I like the call from Cattell and Alfala. We've seen Ray really over the last handful of years really make his money doing these longer strategies on the tires. He gets smoothly into his box, and 4 tires and fuel will be going into the 21.
It is series venture to Brandon Cattell in the race lead in this one. A little bit under the weather, but decided to make the start anyways. Qualified up in 31st position. He's got a little bit of ways to go if he wants to duplicate what BK did at Atlanta over the weekend, and that is win with a little bit of a cold, as BK himself. Cattell right now sits as your race leader in the middle of green flag pit stops from Las Vegas. Now working lap number 51 of 134. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. Just Cattell, I believe, to come down to the pit road still, because in second position, Ryan Luza has cycled back through to that position. In fact, now leading over Logan Clampett. Remember, Luza was all over the back of the 99 on pit road entry, but right now on the racetrack is about 4/10 in front of him. So when the 80 finally comes down, we'll have a first-time race leader from Vegas.
And you can see the tire difference as everybody works their way to the inside of Brandon Cattell, and it looks like Cattell going to the inside line this time. Will the 80 come onto pit road this time? No, he will not. But as you look back at the gap, getting a little bit smaller between Cattell, Ryan Luza, and the rest that have come down pit road. It was 13 seconds the last time by, and looking back to that position number 2, it continues to shrink just a little bit as Luza right now 11.5 seconds behind as they come by into corner number 1, and he's got about a half second back to Logan Clampett. So Ryan Luza really pouring on the pressure here on this first pit stop.
Yeah, he was all over the back of the 99 machine. Obviously, Clampett felt that as he came down to the pit lane to get his service. and the pass actually happens as they were coming off of the pit lane. Luza was just better getting in, better out of the box, and by the time they blended back up and onto the racing surface, Luza had flip-flopped in front of Clampett. Right now they are second and third, but very shortly that will become first and second on the racetrack. After one with Cattell out there, certainly you've seen the difference in speed between him out there on old tires and some other drivers. I don't think you could really realistically go for a one-stopper, and just as I say that, there he goes, dives down to the pit lane, thinking Cattell was just trying to hang out, maybe catch a yellow and see what was going to happen. His gap had shrunk to just 10 seconds over Luza and Clampett, so Cattell's going to get into the box, and that time through for the first time tonight, it is Ryan Luza on top. He's very good at this Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and without any assists, no cautions, no restarts, he's driven his way from P11 to now the race lead.
Don't think it's any surprise at all that we've seen Ryan Luza put in this sort of drive in the early phase of this race. Logan's been very good as well. Driver to keep an eye on, though, that 6 is Zach Novak. Remember, he has that extra handful of laps before he came down on pit road. He's just made the pass for third on Keegan Leahy, and he's about 4 seconds back, in fact, off the back of Logan Clampett and Ryan Luza, and he's lapping about 1.5 to 2 quicker every trip around the racetrack. It's important to remember, though, that the deeper we go, the more that difference will sort of equal itself out, and that the advantage of Zach Novak on these slightly newer tires will go away. And I'm going to be honest, Evan, I don't know if I'm a fan of this call from Novak coming down pit road when he did. I think the staying out is potentially a good call, but he needed to push it longer and come down somewhere in line with the 21 or even Brandon Cattell, who we just saw come down pit road. We saw the biggest advantage of the 53 and the 99 over the 6 was the early run speed, and by Zach coming down when he did, he basically gave away any new tire advantage he had. And now Logan and Ryan basically just get a 30 to 35 lap window where they're just likely going to outpace the 6.
Yeah, I mean, they've already grown the gap over the number 6 machine to 4 seconds flat, and keep in mind, again, Novak had been the one that had kind of initiated that battle for the race lead, having caught up to, at that time, race leader Clampett. Luza had come up from behind in third position, and now Novak ends up pretty significantly off, still in good position, though, in his number 6 Ford. Keep in mind, of course, Luza up in front of the field comes into this as the driver ranked first in our eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series power rankings headed out of Daytona. Got a career best finish on the Super Speedway 2 weeks ago of P6, and he comes into this race, as I mentioned, a big fan of it. Well, he's never not won at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, making his third career campaign in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. It is already a 2-time winner. Last time by, fastest car on track by a 10th, extending his lead over the 99.
And another one of the drivers that is on the move, and it was on the move backwards and then now forwards, is Ray Alfala. Alfala to the inside of Kane Cook, battling for position number 19. Ray had something amiss on his pit stop, fell all the way back to about 24th place, and now making his way back up in that Wood Brothers number 21. Comes up at a corner number 4, clears Cook, and he is on the move, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. He'll close in on Corey Vincent and Cody Bias right ahead of him, but the driver that's on the move right now, guys, the 21 of Ray Alfala.
Got a little bit of a ways to go, but certainly good that he's going to turn it back in the opposite direction. Ray down 11 positions from where he started, and is kind of in the middle of the pack, good and bad. If there's a lot of cars mid-pack, we talk about those side-by-side battles, the parts where you really can't get a lot of separation. That's mid-pack. Look at him go way down to the apron on the tri-oval here, front stretch at Vegas. He'll get the spot away from the 27. Vincent, can he get 2 in one swing of the bat? Yes, he does. Bias also going to fall to the wayside. So Alfala back up to P17. Again, long way to go, but good to see that Motorcraft Ford headed in the right direction now.
Definitely is, and this is what I was talking about. You see this 21 car just basically breeze through the field. This is the sort of advantage that Zach Novak cost himself. Yeah, it comes at the price. In the early goings of the run, maybe a worse track position than you would ordinarily have, but for Novak, he doesn't have this huge advantage that Ray now currently does, just breathing his way through the field. I mean, looking at the lap times last time through, Zach Novak was only 0.02 of a second quicker than Ryan Luza. So I really like the call on the 21. He's showing good pace. I don't know if Ray and the Wood Brothers number 21 has the speed to win tonight, but I think they have the strategy call pretty much down, and that's where one of the ways, like I said earlier, Ray has really sort of got himself in an advantageous position throughout his career in this championship is making the right calls on strategy. And it's, I think, a big sign to see that 21 car go 10 laps longer than anyone else except Cattell through those first round of pit stops.
You see, he just made a move on the 17 of Michael Guest, so the Fastenal Ford will end up dropping to P16. So Guest is somebody else who's had a pretty good start, though, at 5-6 positions from where he started. But you can certainly see Ray Alfala's strategy starting to play into effect here, having come down and pitted significantly later than the majority of the cars who came in. About lap 45, he came in at lap 50, and it is helping him. Again, he's got the better set of tires. Now, also, if you're keeping an eye, all the intervals going across the top of your screen. You can keep an eye on where all 40 of the cars are. We had 40 drivers start this race. All but one of them are still in it. Brandon Cattell is a lap down in 39, but Malik Ray in the 90, no longer on track. Had a single car incident on his own. In fact, no, he had a little bit of contact and ended up dropping out of this race. It was not a caution. This happened just a few laps ago after the pit stops, but it looks like Malik Ray has had to bring that car behind the wall. Not good for the Nani machine. Other than that, everybody else is still on the racetrack. Back to the point, though, top of your screen's the intervals. An interval that is getting smaller is Zach Novak from third. We talked about the big gap that Luza Clampett pulled on him. Novak takes 2/10 out of that gap last lap alone. So as we watch the battle for P5 and 6 on track right now, just keep in mind, Novak starting to close in on your race leaders.
It'll take him a few laps to get there, but Zelensky is trying to get to the inside of Nick Ottinger. He's been trying this for the last couple laps as you've been watching. Zelensky in the Interstate Batteries, number 18, to the inside of the 47 of Ottinger, but can't seem to get that run to the inside. It's there, tries to make it happen, and then rolling the top is Ottinger and takes that spot back. That battle for position number 5 continuing to brew, and not too far ahead of them, Keegan Leahy about a second ahead. So as Ottinger rolls the top one more time, great run at a turn 2 that time will gap Bobby Zelensky a little bit.
Get a little bit of a gap. Certainly all good news as they battle inside at the top 5, about 5 seconds off, actually, of your race leaders. With Leahy at an interval last time by at 4.8, and for Zelensky, who we were following, 5.7 off to the top spot. But we've already gotten through now the first exchange of green flag pit stops, presumably one more still to come if this race stays green. And because we have been, I won't say incident-free anymore, because Malik Ray got a little bit of contact at 4, forced him to retire from this race. But since we have been caution-free now through 68 laps, we are past the halfway point in tonight's race. So let's take a look at our iRacing Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR and many more. At lap number 69, it is Ryan Michael Luza to the tune of 1 second atop of Logan Clampett. That's the gap between your top two. Zach Novak continues to close. Third place is now just 2.7 seconds off. Keegan Leahy currently scored exactly where he started. That is P4, and Nick Ottinger down 2 from where he started in 5th. A couple of big movers, though. Bobby Zelensky in P6. Matt Busa currently runs in 7th. Your pole sitter Brad Davies has kind of balanced himself out in the number 8 position. He leads Nathan Lyon, who has scored in 9th spot, and Jim Yamolis rounds out your top 10.
Jarl Tien currently runs in position number 11. Christian Chalner and Michael Conti both even from where they started in 12th and 13th. That driver that was on the move we talked about earlier, Ray Alfala, up to position number 14 with Ashton Crowder back to position number 15 as he battles with Michael Guest. Guest looks to the inside. That's the battle for position number 15 as they go by into corner number 1. Behind them, Taylor Hurst getting into that battle as well. In 17th place, Corey Vincent. In 18th, Cody Bias. In 19th, and Kane Cook, great run in 20th.
Blake Reynolds finds himself running 21st with Eric Smith in 22nd. Casey Kerwin up a few spots in that 23rd spot. 55 of Brian Schoenberg not going the way he would like, down 15 from 9th. He's currently in 24th. Garrett Lowe in 25th with Jake Nichols and Michael Garuglia, Chris Shearburn, Chris Oderlin, and Phil Diaz rounding out your top 30.
Benjamin W. Nelson is 31st position. You've also got Ryan Lowe in 32nd. In fact, they'll swap. Lowe to 31, Nelson to 32. Adam Benefiel is 33rd at the moment. Casey Tucker scored 34th with Timmy Hill in the number 35 spot. Logan Kress is 36. Nick Shelton, Dylan Duvall, and Brandon Cattell through the rest of the cars in the lead lap, 37, 38, and 39. And as we noted, Malik Ray in the garage sits 40th position. That rounds out your look at your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you use the promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019, you can get started on the iRacing service. Get a 3-month subscription for just $10. Again, that is PR-eNASCAR 2019. That is valid on new iRacing memberships only. Get yourself in on the action. A lot of exciting stuff and new content coming in 2019. Of course, that also ties in with the discussion we had at the top of the show, Tim, about the new 2019 package coming to these Cup cars in the new build, which we will see before we're back in 2 weeks in Fontana.
It's always interesting to see this series after a brand new build, after changes to the race cars, who adapts the quickest and who's able to really get on top of the ball with their testing prior to these races. And it's going to change a little bit, but I'm sure these guys that are up front of the field are still going to be on the ball. But we'll see who else rises towards the top. Ryan Luza continues to lead this thing, and I was looking back at that interval. Second place, Logan Clampett's fallen back to about a second off the pace. Zach Novak continuing to come in position number 3, so there's still some moving and shaking around here. There is the 99 of Clampett, puts a lap on Dylan Duvall, was involved in that incident with Malik Ray, and now falling back a little bit is Dylan Duvall. So tough break for the Canadian, but still on the racetrack, still trying to get some laps in.
As long as this race stays green, you could think a couple more cars might drop out of this thing, and Duvall's ability to just kind of stick in it and keep at it may pay dividends if he can snag a couple of extra points, but certainly you don't think what he was looking for in this second race of 2019. As we now count down towards our second and maybe final exchange of green flag pit stops, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid. We saw drivers come in pretty much right on the money at lap number 45, which would mean lap 90 is the magic number to get you to the rest of the race. We certainly saw some drivers go a little bit later. It means you can't only go 45 laps. So Randy, does anybody go maybe a little bit sooner than that, mix things up?
I think if you're in the sort of situation the likes of Zach Novak is, maybe if you're Keegan Lakey, Nick Ottinger, even a little bit deeper down the field, you might say Brad Davies, Nathan Lyon, Matt Busa. If you're in that window, I think it might make sense coming down a little bit earlier. You might come down as early as about lap 82, lap 83. At the same time, if you're already running in a good position, you may want to go even a little on the long side. We've seen how that's worked out for some, not panned out for others. Ray has sort of equalized where he was before that pit stop, currently running 14th on the racetrack, maybe a couple of spots back. But other than that, I don't think we're going to see anything crazy once we come down pit road here. The fact we've gone all green means the strategy really keeps itself somewhat simple for all these guys out there. Not a lot of thinking about what to do with this one if we have to go green all 134 laps.
Zach Novak from third position has done a good job of chipping into the gap that the race leaders had built out of pit stops. And that car right there in front of him, about 6 car lengths ahead, maybe 5 now, is second place runner Logan Clampett. Watch the interval in the center there as the Roush Fenway Racing driver closes in on Clampett. Clampett is starting to fall off a little bit to race leader Ryan Luza. Clampett reporting his race car is a little bit too loose. That team's going to plan on working on that on their final green flag pit stop of the night. Again, assuming it all goes according to plan, but Zach Novak at this pace should get him by then.
Absolutely, he should. As you see that battle on your screen, Novak consistently faster than Logan Clampett. Gets that run, takes a peek to the inside. A little bit of lap traffic ahead of them as well, so keep that in mind as they battle for that second place position. But we talked Novak being really fast on the long run, but Ryan Luza wasn't too far off his pace on the long run as well, as there goes the 48 to the inside. It looks like we had one driver at least come down to pit road and crack the cork on pit stops for this final round.
I was going to say, unless something crazy is going on, and he's got a lot of speed that he's been sandbagging on, that is a freshly pit car for Benjamin Nelson. He did come down to the pit lane just a few laps ago at lap number 78. That is way early. When I asked you, Randy, if somebody was going to come early, I'm thinking maybe 2-3 laps, and if that decision does happen, it could be what decides the battle for the race win here amongst DeLuca, Clampett, and Novak, who I think have separated themselves as your three main contenders. But Novak has completed that pass. He now goes into the number 2 position as he tries to get what would be an incredible start. 2 for 2 on 2019. He's in a very good position to try to back up his win at Daytona.
Yeah, he definitely is. Novak's really showing that he has some great speed here and basically saying that win at Daytona wasn't a fluke. But you're right when talking about that 48 of Ben Nelson. Seems a little extreme to be coming down that early, but consider the fact we haven't really talked about that number 48 car all day. I mean, he's running way down the order in 32nd. We eventually came down pit road. I think if you're in that sort of situation, throwing the Hail Mary and coming down early and trying to make up a lot of spots right here, right now, I really can't argue with it too much, Evan. I think it makes some sense given that the situation that 48 car was in.
So now we wait and see. As far as the top 3 cars on track, I think it would be a little bit of a jump or a stretch for a Leahy in P4, 5.4 seconds off. A Zelensky P5, he's 5.9 off. It's a bit much, I think, for those drivers to be able to make a move that rockets them into a battle for the race win here. You never know. You get a duly timed pit stop, a caution drops, a restart, and it's anybody's game. But I think these top 3 are the cream of the crop. They've certainly showed that it should be amongst them if all stays according to plan. We now sit and wait inside of what is now 50 laps to go from Las Vegas. You just wait to see who makes the move first, and you would think maybe Logan Clampett, since he's been the one dropping, having fallen to 3rd, and a lot of smoke that time at a turn 4. There's a car off and in the grass in the front, and now a big incident on the front straightaway. Caution flag is out, and it is Jarl Tien in the G2 entry.
And that was a hard hit on the front straightaway for Jarl Tien, as we'll queue up the race spot replay to see what happened. And at this point, they're already coming off of turn 4. Is that Dylan Duval maybe in the grass? There's a little contact with Davies. Alfala. Oh, that was a hard hit for that 66 car of Jarl Tien. But man, oh man, a lot of good cars there being bent up. And Dylan Duval, the rough luck continues this evening for the Simcraft number 42.
And we can get a shot of the number 46 machine. Right there, you just missed it. The contact starts with the 88 machine in side-by-side battle between he and Jimmy Mullis. Mullis is down low, and it's Brad Davies in the 88 machine in the middle of the racetrack. The 46 gets loose, pushes up, gets into Davies. Davies is the car that then goes up and gets into the car that you saw on the grass, Dylan Duval. So that's how all of that started. Slowed a bunch of cars down in turn 4, and eventually it led to that kind of a calamity quarter. And really just the time you're watching the onboard here, you'll see what happens with Jarl Tien. It's all going to start in front of him. Look for the side-by-side battle in the corner. A little bit of a pinch, a little bit of a bobble. There it is. Duval gets turned, and Jarl Tien's just trying to navigate this. He slows down, and right in the middle, you might not see it as they come on the right side. There's contact. That was Alfala and Davies who got together. Tien, very much an innocent bystander, gets the worst. And we have our first caution flag of this race. And the entire field is now down onto the pit lane. No doubt 4 tires and fuel is going to be the call. It takes away any strategy option. Let's see who wins the race off of the pit lane.
Brian Luzer looks like he's off of pit road clean as the rest of the field comes cycling out. And it's actually going to be Zach Novak who's the big loser in that one. I have to say, though, Evan, for that 21 car, talk about a disaster way to start the season. He gets a little bit of drama at Daytona last week, and then this incident tonight honestly just seems like Brad Davies just lost track of where cars were and just sort of pulled down with a heavily damaged car 40 miles an hour off the pace in front of that 21. So for Ray Alfala having such a strong end of the season last year, these first 2 races not going great. He comes off, I think, somewhere around 12th after the pit stops, but heavy damage to that Wood Brothers number 21.
It looks like he's 11th position, but opted to not sit down in the box and get that car repaired. He took his 4 tires and fuel and left. Could have sat down there probably for another minute or so and allowed the crew to work on that car and get it back up to snuff. Instead, he decides he wants to maintain it. It does look like he is going to be just outside of the top 10 with a car that is damaged. and may affect him as we prepare to make a run to the end of this race. Duval now, a lap car comes down to the pit lane, but it is Ryan Luza as your race leader. Novak jumps into the number 3 position after Clampett leapfrogged him on pit road. But I did say, for the Leahys and Zelenskys, maybe a yellow puts you in this thing all of a sudden. Brand new ball game. You don't need any more fuel to the end. We can race this one out. And if you thought there was a lot of 2-3 wide early, you haven't seen anything yet.
And I think the strategy comes into this now, Evan. Do we get a couple of short stints to the finish, or do we get that long green flag run like we saw to kick off the first 80-something laps of this race? If we see a long green flag run to the end, I like Ryan Luza, I like Zach Novak. Those cars, those drivers have been consistent and really fast on the long run. We get a couple of short stints. You might see somebody from the back half of the top 10. Ottinger was really good on the first run, trying to get up into the top 5, and he's currently scored in position number 8. So I think this all depends on where the cautions fall, if they do, in the final laps of this race, and who has the faster long run or short run car in this one.
We've seen Novak be the better car on the longer runs. He never really got an opportunity to make a full play at it on the first exchange of pit stops, because as soon as he got to the top 2 there, they came down to the pit lane, and he was able to get a move on Clampett. Don't think he was going to get to Luza in those extra 5 laps or so, but 3 drivers got a real good shot at this, and everybody else going to be right in the thick of things. So a restart coming up. We will see how it plays out. Before we do, though, as the lights go out on top of the pace car, we preview what's going on in the real-life side of things with the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series headed right here to Las Vegas this weekend.
40 drivers, 3 months of anticipation.
We got to live with each other for 36 weekends.
Get out of my box. All right, tough guy.
And back live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, coming off of our first and only caution thus far this evening in the Las Vegas 200, round number 2 of this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Ryan Michael Luza is your race leader. Logan Clampett, Zach Novak, some of the fastest names in cars all night, going to be right there to his right-hand side and right on his bumper as we welcome you back into Race Spot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. It has been a lot of green flag racing to this point, but what does the final third of this race hold for us? Pace car added in. Luza controls the start. He wants to go early. Green flag back in the air. 44 laps to go.
And Novak takes that hold of the inside of Logan Clampett to battle for position number 2. Bobby Zelensky trying to get his nose into the inside. Looks like they get single file for a couple of moments on the outside line. First side-by-side battle is Bobby Zelensky trying to get that inside line and trying to take it to position number 3.
On the inside there at the 99 Clampett. In fact, he got up to the quarter panel and Novak, but that doesn't stick. Novak defending P2, and it looks like with a big run on the outside of the racetrack, it will be Clampett defending 3rd for the moment as well. The 18, though, keeps the nose there on the inside, and he's not going to be able to get back to the throttle, though. Looks like the bumps down in 1 and 2 got to him. And Zelensky's going to have to deal with P4 for the moment, but a position gained, having beaten Leahy on that race start. So now Luza wants to set his sights in front of him, but look at all the chaos behind. 2, 3 wide throughout the field as your race leaders duke it out. Luza way down to the grass.
Almost had a big incident in the back with Kane Cook and Brian Schoenberg. They went 3 wide, a little bit of contact through 3 and 4. They're able to hold on to that, though, and we stay green as Luza has that 6 car of Zach Novak for company. We saw a little bit of a gap from that Flipside Tactics car in the opening lap or so of this restart, but now Zach Novak is there running the middle of the track. Logan tries to shove the nose through 3 and 4, but Novak shuts the door.
Shuts the door once more, and maybe for Clampett here sitting in third, may not be the worst thing. If Novak Luza want to fight amongst themselves, just sit back, let them do that, but you got to be careful. Zelensky showed he was hungry with how hard he fought in the JGR entry off of that race start. He's right there also, as your top 10 are now single filed out for the first time since we've gone back under green flag racing conditions. This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliner. The tough comes easy, and this win's certainly not going to come easy, as there's 4 or 5 major players in this thing.
And these drivers going to have to earn it. And Evan, looking back to that first round, we saw 3 drivers pull away from the rest of the field. Once they got side by side and did a little free wide racing, everybody else closed back in. I'm intrigued to see on this run if we get anybody that pulls away and tries to settle this race amongst themselves, as the 99 of Logan Clampett gets down to the inside. Nothing doing there on Zach Novak for position number 2. But just watch that as we go through this run. If this thing stays green, if anybody can try to pull away and maybe settle this battle amongst themselves for this second race of the season.
See, as there's a couple of other fights deeper in the top 10 here. The 47 machine at Ottinger trying to get to the inside at 8th and Lyon, as Clampett now does get a nose to the inside on Zach Novak in the fight for P2. All this is going to do is let Luza just get further and further away. So Clampett's going to want to make a quick pass here. 6 not letting that happen, and they're going to stay side by side now through 2 and down the back.
Zach does a good job down Nellis to keep the momentum up, but in towards 3 and 4, we know Logan has liked the bottom of the racetrack to make moves. He's been running there all day. We saw that in that opening stint, but still not quite enough momentum coming from down there. He's actually going to go high. I'm going to open a huge door for the 18 of Bobby Zelensky. Logan Clampett pretty much falling over and dying and handing that third spot to the 18 of Bobby Zelensky.
Race high, P3 for the 18 of Bobby Zelensky. And that Interstate Batteries Toyota, he's got Clampett all over the back, pushing him into turn number 3. But now these 3 cars kind of stuck together, while Ryan Lucitin has got a half a second cushion.
We said that off the top. Somebody gets out in front, they battle for position, and somebody will continue to pull away, and we're seeing it here. But looking back to that third place position, how many times in this series have we seen Bobby Zelensky come to the front at the end of the race when it mattered? We're seeing it one more time. Yes, he's been solid all race long, but now chasing down Zach Novak, pouring the pressure on for position number 2. Bobby Zelensky, solid when it counts near the end of the race, and now looking for position number 2 as he goes to the inside, taking a peek on P2.
One of the benefits of the front stretch here at Vegas, the Tri-Oval, got a lot of apron to work with, and certainly going to tighten that car up on entry. But look at the distance. You're looking off at the back of the 6. I mean, Bobby Zelensky is plastered all over the back of that Ford Fusion there as they go into turn number 3. And the gap between the 18 and the 99, not much better, as you see kind of Clampett's car reveal itself there in the center of the turn. Back down low goes Zelensky. A side-by-side challenge in a great position now to fight for P2 as they go into turn number 1. Zelensky doesn't want to go all the way to the bottom, about a lane and a half up, tries to avoid those bumps. The 6 squeezes through on the outside. Novak doing a very good job, though, of running defense.
The 18's going to send it a little bit in towards turn 3. Can he get the momentum off the corner, though? That's where the 6 of Zach Novak has really been strong. We saw him hold off Clampett, and for now, he's going to hold off the 18 of Zelensky as well. The gap pretty much absolutely nothing at the stripe, but in towards 1 and 2, potentially Zelensky's best opportunity. Sends it all the way to the white line this time. Doesn't leave it up into the middle of the racetrack whatsoever, and still the 6 holds on that top groove.
Hill coming on the outside, but look out, slow car outside. It's Jarl Tien just barely squeaking through as the 66 held the high line. Novak fearless on the outside, within a half a foot of the outside wall, still stayed in the gas, and Bobby Zelensky finally has to tuck back in line. Great fight for second position, allows Novak to hang on, but in the blink of an eye, guys, Luza is now gone. 1.1 seconds to your race leader. A big gap between the 53 and the 6 car.
And as we see that battle up there for position number 2, you saw a glimpse of that battle almost 3 wide, just inside the top 10 with guys like Chalder, Jimmy Mullis, Matt Busa. They're all going at it as hard as they're going at it up here for position number 2. Bobby Zielinski had to retreat there a little bit. We've seen Bobby Zielinski being very smart near the end of the races, but also if he needs to maybe cut an extra inch, he'll definitely do so as well. But we've got 30 laps to go in this one. Bobby Zielinski knows there's still 30 laps to go, but now he's got company behind him. There is Clampett, and there is Keegan Leahy waiting to pounce on Zielinski and waiting to pounce on Zach Novak. And oh, by the way, as you mentioned, Evan, Ryan Luza gone by almost a second and a half.
Continues to pull away now. We'll see that Novak's got that clean air and no longer having Zielinski shoved up on his left-hand side if he's going to be able to get back into it all night long. This has been the point where Novak's been at his best, middle to the end of the run. Last time by, we took 30 laps to go in this race, and the 6 car, if he's going to start to turn that around, now would be about the time to start getting at it.
Yeah, it's really going to be, he's going to have to start picking the pace up now, but it's going the other way. Ryan Luza is quicker by a couple hundredths almost every single lap, and let's be honest, Evan, you don't give Ryan Luza a 1.2 second lead and claw that back. I'd say if we go without a yellow, unless the 53 makes a mistake, this is pretty much Ryan Luza's race to lose at this point.
We'll see how this plays out. Of course, Luza, if you just tuned in with us after making his debut in 2017, a 2-time race winner here at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, has never not won this race, and certainly a good opportunity for him to keep things going with a good start to 2019 after a decent showing just 2 weeks ago in our opener from Daytona. Lap times almost identical between the top 2. We look a little bit further back. You see the 8 machine of Michael Conti fighting. The 13 machine is also back here. That is Corey Vincent right behind him in 13th. Sorry, the 27 to the outside. You're on board with Taylor Hurst. So certainly a lot going on mid-pack. And this is exactly what, if I'm Ryan Luza, I'd be concerned about, Tim. The cars up front, they single file out. You kind of have your battle of 2 cars here and 2 cars there. But mid-pack, where they group up in packs of 6 or 7, and you do get an occasional bout of 3 wide, that's where the cautions may come from. And of course, that's what Luz is hoping doesn't happen if he can ride this one out, pulling now another 10th on second place Novak.
Now, if you're Ryan Lucy, you can't really be concerned with what is happening behind you right now. You have to hit your marks, and he's continuously doing so. You can't worry about guys like Jimmy Mullis and Matt Busa, who are side by side here for a position, and Chalner right ahead of them. You can't be concerned with them battling side by side. Just hit your marks and continue to build the gap that you just saw on your screen back to Zach Novak. We've seen Novak have a really good long-run car. If this thing goes green the rest of the way, I think Zach Novak is going to be a little bit closer to Ryan Luza, but Ryan Luza's car is also good on the long run. We saw it on the very first run of this race as you see the battle on your screen between Bobby Zielinski, Logan Clampett, and Keegan Leahy not too far behind as they all chase down Novak for second.
Look at the one machine bout mid-pack. They are a real close call out of turn 2. This is deeper in the pack. Blake Reynolds almost got into Ashton Crowder. Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about when you're saying that Luza needs to be a little bit concerned. Look at this. 2 sets of 2 wide there mid-pack. The 77 of Ashton Crowder has been much further towards the front of the field at points this evening, but has kind of relegated himself back to this mid-pack where he started. You go on board with Jake Nichols, who is up 15 positions from where he started this race, probably in the running to be tonight's hard charger, but it still has him locked in right now a battle for 15th spot. You see Ray Alfala in front of him. The damage on that number 21 Ford has really hindered what we thought may be a second half comeback to this race for that driver. You got Michael Conti still side by side with Corey Vincent in front of him. All of these battles, potential ticking time bombs as these laps start to feel like they're a lot longer than the 29 seconds they are.
Yeah, that's definitely how it's going to go, especially if you're Ryan Luza right now. You've gotten the dream situation, and if anything, you're starting to, hopefully your crew chief and spotter are talking to you and telling you that things are starting to calm down a little bit. We're starting to see this whole sort of mid-pack single file out just a little bit. You see Jake Nichols actually try to make a move on Taylor Hurst. That's going to be for the 15th spot. Actually, take that back. Taylor's the one who just picked that spot up, but the 20 is going to go down to the inside here and keep challenging with this number 74 to make a move. You also have Cody Bias hanging in there on the outside as well.
You see this battle head down the Dallas straightaway. Nichols there side by side with the number 24 machine of Cody Bias on the outside. Look at in the back there, way up on the outside. That's Kane Cook in that fifth and final line, as now a big swing to the inside for Bias. All these drivers trying to fight for all these positions. Of course, it is going to add up the main objective, qualify into the playoffs after the opening 14 races we have here on 2019. And into the outside wall is Taylor Hurst. A big checkup as we go 3 wide in turn number 3. Trying to get around this. It doesn't look good. That is 6 cars on top of each other. The one's going to get tagged, and Blake Reynolds, what a save.
What a save from the one car.
They should have wadded up about 15 cars there. They were 3 wide for about 2 laps, and they were trying to find a place to wreck, and somehow they didn't do it. Take a look at this replay. Amazing save by Blake Reynolds. They were 4 wide at the time trying to come across the stripe, and somehow we're still green.
99 times out of 10, that is a huge wad up. Look at that sideways, and not only is that one of the best saves you'll ever see on its own, he did that while being 4 wide. There's the contact. Great job by the other cars to give him space. What a piece of driving by Blake Reynolds to keep this race green.
Absolutely fantastic save from the one car. Cannot speak highly enough of that. And because of that, that is going to somewhat single file out this entire groove as it gets all these guys just spread out. But my oh my, one of the greatest pieces of driving I think we've probably seen all night, all things considered. But with that just happening here, Evan, one thing we have to keep in the back of our heads: any caution 5 laps from the end of this race will end it. There is no overtime period in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. So if you're Ryan Luza, maybe hoping for a caution here in about 12 laps time, but any sooner than that would be a disaster, as we sort of entered the window of if a caution flies now, do you come down pit road? Do you not come down pit road? Is it 2 tires? Is it 4 tires? We've sort of hit strategy roulette time with about 20 laps to go, well, inside of 20 to go.
The question will certainly be, do you take the track position, or having run enough laps on these tires, do you want to come down, get fresh rubber, go out there and try to storm your way through? But that point noting that there is no overtime in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, big, because that was a huge reason why we saw such an exciting finish at Daytona last week. Caution came out at the completion of what was 6 laps to go, coming over to 5 laps to go. We had a 1-lap shootout in that race. Zach Novak evidently comes out on top at a photo finish. So for Luza, you're certainly looking to get to lap number 134. That is however many laps we are going to run, no more, no less. But if you get to 130 tonight, 4 laps to go or less, if a caution comes out then, it is over. So maybe a little bit closer for Luza as he comes by this time to take lap number 120. Lap traffic in front stays high. You can see the field on the front straightaway here now has separated themselves out into a couple of groups of single file racing. Luza can taste it. Novak's chipped away a little bit, but the 1.1 second gap is not going to be easily surmounted in 10 laps.
They've been going back and forth on the stopwatch fastest time between those 2. Caution flag is out on the speedway. That will change everything.
Certainly will, as a caution flag comes out. If we look to see the culprit, there is a slow car on the back straightaway, and it looks like it is going to be Adam Benefiel. You'll take a look at the replay. It started there with the 3 car, Michael Guerrilla, in a battle, lost a little bit of speed, and it ended up being the 16 of Chris Overland trying to squeeze to the middle. Benefiel wouldn't let him go any lower, and contact in turn number 2 is going to bring out just our second yellow of the night. But it does set up that scenario now, Randy, with pit road open and a restart guaranteed inside of 10 to go. Do you want tires or do you want track position? Luza in from the race lead. It looks like that the 6 is also in. Zelensky, Clampett, Leahy, all your race leaders coming down.
Seems like everyone's coming down pit road. I haven't seen anyone gambled yet. And no, it doesn't seem like we're going to get anyone. We have 1 car out there. Timmy Hill is going to be the sole driver to try to hang out here and maybe make something happen, hopefully catch a train of cautions. But now the question, who wants 2 and who wants 4?
Into the box goes Luza. He's going to be the driver who we think has had the best car, but how important is that clean air out front? Right sides and left sides onto the number 53. Here comes the race off of pit road as he goes for the straight shot. We'll see if anybody catches him. It is Luza out of pit road. And by a good margin, is that Ray Alfala second off of pit lane for the 21. He did go with 2 tires only. It is then 4 tires for Novak and 4 tires for Zelensky.
And you know, I kind of like this strategy from Ray Alfala, hanging around the top 10 just outside, but you're not going to win the race from 10th place. I like this move by Ray Alfala. It's probably going to gain him a few positions. Evan, we've seen this before. As long as he can finish within the top 10, it's a gain in these last few laps of this race, but it's going to be hard to beat Ryan Luza. And there's on your screen Timmy Hill, driver of the 63 Flipside Tactics Toyota, and we'll see if he decides to stay out on the racetrack or come down pit road. I know he's got Adam Gilliland on the box, so you want to talk about a guy who's parlayed some pit strategy into some great finishes. It's got to be Adam Gilliland, so we'll see. Timmy Hill stays out in the racetrack.
Well, certainly we'll see if he decides to stay out, or if it is going to be a decision to come back down to the pit lane. Timmy Hill started this race in 37th position, and well, right now, he is your race leader at lap number 123. The other car that you did see out there is Jarl T, and Jarl was involved in that first incident earlier in this race. So he has been working with some pretty significant damage. He is a lap down car, so when the lights go out, he will be waved on through. But not only is obviously Timmy Hill trying to get going, if he does stay out on these old tires, going to be big as far as his hopes for the race lead, but it then flips the lanes for everybody else. Ryan Luza no longer would start for the inside of the front row. He would then end up on the outside. That puts Alfala then on the inside of row 2 and 3rd. That could set the 21 up for a little bit of a better opportunity on those 2 tires, having been on the bottom. We wait to see, though, if the 63 is going to stick this one through. The lights may be going out this time.
We'll have to take a peek and see. I think at this point, I think if you're Timmy Hill, you probably just have to keep this thing out here and maybe make something happen. Doesn't seem like he has any intention coming down pit road based on where he has the car on the racetrack right now. So I think we're going to be seeing this. I think we're going to be seeing Timmy Hill out there in the lead, bringing us to the restart in the 21, second in line on that inside row. And let's keep in mind, we've seen these sorts of calls from people completely backfire in the past and seen the entire field get absolutely demolished in some way or another. I don't think we're done just yet with the caution flags. Timmy, I'm not going to say he's been bad all day, but he's not had the quickest race car. Now he's out there on old tires with a lot of fast race cars behind him. We're going to see a big accordion going into 1, and whether or not we make it out of it with a green or not is going to be a bit of a spin of the roulette wheel.
And because we are still early enough in this race, with this restart coming at 10 laps to go, if that check-up, which we know it's going to come because, well, old tires just don't get going like that 53 is going to be on the outside. So looking for Alfala to go low, look for the 53. I still think Lewis is going to be in a pretty good spot here. But if we do have an incident here, this race still has an opportunity to go back green as the all Flipside Tactics front row gets set to bring us to a restart with 10 laps left from Las Vegas. Those 2 drivers, 2 very different journeys to this point. Ryan Luza, maybe the best car all night, started 11th, made up, though, from what maybe he would consider a lackluster Q performance to lead the most laps thus far, whereas Timmy Hill leading his first laps just now under the caution flag. The 63 is going to be the control car down low. How well does he get off and going for the restart? And the 53 on the outside is going to try to swing by all of the ensuing chaos. Pace car down and in. Here we go with 10 laps to go from Vegas. Green flag in the air. There's the tire spin. Alfala can't go anywhere. And the outside with a big run to turn 1.
Ray gave Timmy room. The drivers behind did not. We're 3 wide behind the 63. Logan Clampett to the inside. We're going to be 4 wide. They're going to check up Lyon in the wall, and they're going to stack him up behind.
The 63 sideways. Hill locks it up, and somehow 5-6 wide. They haven't crashed yet. Now back up into turn 3. and I think this race is going to stay green somehow in some way, as they are still 4 wide in the back. A battle for the race lead is upon us. Luza leads Novak, the gap just 3 car lengths in turn 2.
I think that's about the 3rd time tonight we could have seen 10-plus cars get wadded up, and we just didn't. Luza and Novak, though, they get the dream situation. They're able to scamper away from all that checking up, and they get clear. Logan Clampett, though, has done a very good job of keeping pace as well. So Novak now trying to reel that 53 in. We've seen Novak have the advantage on Ryan in the late runs. Now he's got 8 laps to make something happen.
And last time, the advantage went to Luza by just 2 1/1000ths of a second. These two are so very even. You see the 6 now going to try to change it up a little bit. Luza's way down on the bottom. Clampett in 3rd, way down on the bottom. Novak a little bit higher, ran that middle line in 3 and 4. You can't do what Luza does if you expect to catch him, and that time Novak made up a little bit of ground. It's 2 car lengths still as they work lap 128.
Look at the run Luza gets middle off that time. Zach Novak had a great entry to turn number 1, but struggled a little bit middle off. Zach Novak trying to roll that number 6 car a little bit better than Luza can as they come out of corner number 4. Beautiful exit for Novak that time. Look at the momentum that he gets down the front straightaway. Closes that gap back up to a car length and a half. Luza in command of this one. Novak in 2nd. Arguably, Evan, 2 of the fastest cars all night long. Trying to settle it amongst themselves, but they better not look behind because they got a whole host of hungry cars behind.
And Zach Novak coming into this series, obviously, as one of the drivers to keep an eye on, having won at Daytona, coming to this race with maybe a few more questions on if he's going to be able to consistently fight for the race wins like he did on the Super Speedway. How's this for an answer? He is all over the back of Luza. The gap is down to 1/10 of a second with 5 laps to go in this race. The 6 has a shot. I think Clampett in 3rd, half a second off, is going to need a miracle and maybe contact amongst the 53 and the 6 to get into this thing. But Zach Novak has got a real shot at this thing if he plays his cards right.
Coming to 4 laps to go as they come off turn 4, and Zach Novak going to work the momentum in towards turn 1. Still not close enough to make a move. He's been letting Ryan run the car a little bit harder into the corners the last couple laps, maybe trying to get some sort of advantage if he can. This time, he drives it much harder into 1, and he stays closer off of 2 because of it in towards 3 and 4. Luza once again dives it in deeper, getting down to the inside, and Novak's going to hug that middle lane. 3 to go as they come off of 4.
Now at the point where a caution flag would end this race, if you're Zach Novak, you can't wait to make it pretty. There is no setting him up for the last turn on the last lap here. You got to make the move ASAP. Still there. Both cars now running a higher line in 1 and 2, and right up against the wall on the Nellis straightaway. Ryan Luza certainly mirror driving now as he goes back to the bottom in 3 and 4. Watch Novak try to build this run at a turn 4. A lot of speed. It'll be 1 car length into turn 1. 2 more laps remain.
Zach Novak a lot better in 3 and 4, but look at this, down to the inside through 1 and 2. He's got to be better here if he wants to pull off his 2nd consecutive victory. Ryan Luza just ahead, but watch this run that Zach Novak's going to get through 3 and 4. He is going to be solid here. They're going to come up this time, Evan, to the white flag.
1 more lap to go this time by Novak. Made a dive to the inside on the last lap. It didn't work. Let's see how it plays out. White flag in the air from Vegas. Zach Novak is searching for 0.12 seconds as he's on the bumper of Luza. Down the back straightaway they go. No more than 2 feet between them. It's going to be decided in the final quarter. Novak looks to the inside. Luza cuts him off. He's not going to give him enough space. And at a turn number 4, Ryan Luza's going to hang on. Winner at Las Vegas.
Absolute fantastic driving from Ryan Michael Luza in that 53. Throws a big drift. Bit of a Shane Van Gisbergen impersonation out there through 1 and 2. That was well held as Flipside Tactics gets their first win in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Ryan Luza will remain undefeated here at Las Vegas.
3 for 3 now in 2017, 18, and 19. And you can't say he didn't have to.
Outside of your top 20, you have Blake Reynolds 21st, Ryan Lowe 22nd, Adam Benefield in 23rd, Eric Smith in 24th, and Logan Kress round out your top 25. Chris Shearburn, Kane Cook, Nicholas Shelton, Chris Overland, and Nathan Lyon round out the top 30.
Final couple of cars to end on the lead lap. Michael Guerrilla ends up in 31st spot. Taylor Hurst 32nd. Brad Davies, your pole sitter, 33rd at the end of the night. Certainly not what he was expecting about an hour and a half ago from this point. Ray Alfala also late slide 34th at the checkered flag. And Timmy Hill, who led us to that final restart, ends up final car on the lead lap in P35. One lap down for 36 and 37. That'll be for Brandon Hayes-Cattell and Jarl Tien. Brian Schoenberg, 38th tonight out of this race, along with Dylan Duval, 39th, and Malik Gray in 40th position. That's a complete look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. We'll take one final opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we are headed to victory lane. Ryan Lusa remains undefeated at Las Vegas. We'll talk with him next. You're watching the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
Drivers, 3 months of anticipation.
Everybody's in brand new fire suits. Everybody's in brand new paint schemes.
Pit crews getting back into race mode. In the race shop, we're building new cars.
Let's go racing, drivers!
And we got to live with each other for 36 weekends.
Get out of my box, all right? Tough guy.
People are going to get pissed off.
There's a lot of crazy maneuvers that guys will do.
Look at that 9 bar.
We live for those intense situations.
Second place is just the first loser.
And back live from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the Race Spot TV post-race show. Following tonight's Las Vegas 200, 2 races now done in this 2019 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series campaign. And we have started off this year with a bang. Another exciting to finish. This one in favor of Ryan Michael Lusa as we go trackside and chat right now with the driver of the number 53 machine. A photo finish last week at Daytona and a photo finish this evening. On the flip side, though, it's not Novak in victory lane. He will be in second position. We'll talk with him next. Lusa on top now, 3 for 3 all time at America's Racing Showplace. Ryan, congratulations on the win. I know that you probably came into this one with high hopes and you had a great race car, but Zach wasn't going to make that one easy on you.
Yeah, Zach was extremely fast. What I noticed earlier in the run, whenever we had a cloud roll over and the track dropped about 10 degrees, he started struggling a little bit, and I pulled on that one of those final runs. I pulled him about a second, so I kind of expected the same thing to happen, but I guess they made some good changes for the overcast weather on that last pit stop and had it fixed up a little bit. I just want to say it's really, really cool. It makes the races a lot more dynamic. Like, we're actually having to pay attention to clouds rolling in, track temp, and staying on top of what the track's doing. So I thought that was really, really neat. Could have cost us a win right there if we didn't adjust to it right. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, Novak was extremely fast. I think me and him were the two to beat on the long run. Just about the same pace. But I want to thank him for racing me good, not dumping me there into turn 3. But we've always raced good in the past together.
Looked like that this race was going to come down to the decisions made under green flag pit stops. We saw at lap number 45, the first couple of cars come down to the pit lane. At that point, a group with you, Novak, Clampett, end up being the final 3 at the end of this one. And probably you guys were going through the decisions on when to make that final pit stop there. Then we see 2 late race yellows in this one to kind of take that strategy aspect out of it. And then the second one, obviously, to make that mad 10-lap dash to the end of this race. How did that affect things? Do you think you might have been better off if this one went green to the end, or will you have enough confidence in that 53 that you guys felt like you could get it done no matter what?
I'm sorry about that. I definitely wanted to go green for sure. I think Novak didn't quite have enough. He pitted 2 laps later, I think, and he didn't really make up all that much ground. I think I still had like a second and a half on him, and we were extremely close to pitting when that caution came out. So I would have preferred green flag stops, but obviously it still turned out fine. We made good adjustments for the weather on the last stop, and we came out with the win. I didn't have huge hopes coming into this race. I felt like we were a little bit off in testing, but I guess I was just being crazy because the car was amazing.
You guys certainly picked off where you left off last year, and of course, the way that Las Vegas falls on the calendar, and not only the fact that it's an intermediate racetrack and you tend to be good on those, that'll be very good for your 2019 campaign as a whole, but the fact that you're so good at a racetrack that comes early in the year, you don't find yourself digging out of a hole early. How critical is it to get a great start to 2019?
It's even more important, especially now that we're not having a drop race. And I've never had a good run at Daytona, and we came out 6th at Daytona, a win here, just clocking off as many good finishes as possible and see if we can, be safe with 4 or 5 races left and take some of the pressure off. But for now, just run good week in and week out, try to contend for wins, and just look forward to the big picture. It's hard to say that because you have the money on the line every single week now, so you definitely want to go win, but there is the bigger picture come Homestead when you're racing for 40 grand instead of just 500.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the critical point of trying to fight for the race win at Daytona last week to get $1,000. Of course, you as our maybe first regular season race per se winner, you walk away with $500 for your win tonight. Second place walks away with $250, and third place walks away with $100. So a good night for all 3 of you guys, and we head into something completely different as we go to Fontana in 2 weeks' time. The big thing is these cars are going to be completely different. We had an opportunity to talk at the very start of the night on the broadcast here about what that new package was going to look like with Eric Hudek, who's the iRacing lead vehicle dynamics engineer. What is your next 2 weeks going to be look like prepping for that race?
I'm really not sure. A lot of gray area. We're gonna have to wait for the build to come out and see how much really changes. But typically, like last year when we had this change, you're gonna see a couple teams that really hit on it and figure out the new build quickly, and some teams that struggle and kind of figure it out later in the year towards the latter half. So hopefully we figure it out quick, but I'm expecting a lot of setup changes, just teams being completely in the dark, and everyone's saying the racing is going to be a lot different. So glad we capitalized here when we knew exactly what was going on, but now going into where are we going, California maybe? Wherever we're going, it's just no one knows what's going on. Yeah, Fontana.
We look forward to seeing you guys in Fontana, California, but you made the most of the night, and you guys walk away with your first win of 2019. Ryan, before we let you jet, anybody else you want to say hi to?
Big thanks to everyone at iNext Racing. Thanks to YRTN. You're all being on the box, and Colton Davis as well. I said y'all being on the box. Derek being on the box. And thanks to Flipside Tactics for drafting me and giving me this great opportunity. Stat Shellix and G Fuel as well for being on the car. I love my paint scheme, so trying to put it up front every race.
Would certainly look good up there in the number 1 position. Ryan, again, congratulations on the win. Thanks for letting us pick your brain a little bit, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Evan.
The race winner tonight from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He was on the opposite end of a photo finish last week. This time it is P2 for the number 6 is Zach Novak. Trackside with him is Tim.
Zach Novak comes home with position number 2, and Zach, car looked good on the long run. Besides maybe another 15 laps or so, what else did you need in that run to try to get by Ryan Luza?
I don't really know. We were pretty tight on the short run all race. We really wanted to set up for the long run here and make sure we had a good car for that, and we did just that. We had a really good long run car, and but I think I was just a little too tight on the short run. I was there at the end, but I just didn't have that extra bit that I needed to pass him. So
you come off Daytona with the big win. You finish second here. Is there any target? Do you feel any target on your back after the first 2 races of this brand new season, brand new series?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I know Luz is a past champion, and he's right behind me in points. So he's gonna want to come for that points lead. But But I mean, we couldn't have started off the season much better than a first and a second. And I was a little worried going into this race. I knew we had a really good car. But man, I really did want to go back to back there. And yeah, I was a little worried that we weren't gonna have as good of a car as I expected. And man, we had a better car than I expected. That car was really, really good. And I think we'll be able to set ourselves up really good for the playoffs this year.
Ryan was talking about big picture, trying to get yourself into the playoffs, but I want to talk about short run here. Coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to the California Speedway and Auto Club Speedway, but keep in mind, it's a brand new build. What do we expect in 2 weeks?
I really don't know, Tim. Cars are going to be a lot different. I don't really even think a lot of the stuff from this package is going to transfer over, so it's going to be a lot of R&D, a lot of testing, and just going to be whoever figures it out the quickest is going to be quick at Auto Club. So we'll see if we can catch on quick. I really do think we have a good program going on here at Lockdown Racing, and yeah, I think we'll figure it out quick.
Before we let you go celebrate this evening, who else is on this Roush Fenway Racing Ford, and who helps you get to this second place run tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody from Roush. Most importantly, Wyndham Rewards for being the primary sponsor tonight. Everybody that supports them, Oscar Mayer, Performance Plus Oil, Acorns, everybody that helps them get to the track in real life and supports me here on iRacing. It's a blessing to be a part of them. I want to give a big shout out to everybody behind the scenes at the Lockdown Racing operation with Taylor Hirsch, Jimmy Mullis, David Rattler, Logan Sheets, my crew chief, and Brandon Cobbinger, my spotter. Man, that race was just about as perfect as we could put it, Tim, and we just came up one spot short, man.
First at Daytona and now second at Las Vegas. Zach Novak will leave here with the point lead and a little more money in his pocket as well with the second place finish. I believe Randy has caught up with our third place finisher here this evening, the leader of Clamp Nation, Logan Clampett.
Yeah, I'm stood by it with Logan here. Third place finish tonight in that Burton Kligerman Esports number 99 car. First thing, Logan, you came out like on absolute fire at the start of this race, jumped quickly from that sixth starting spot all the way up to the race lead. What made you so quick in the early goings of this one tonight?
I think we had more of a short run car than a long run car there towards the beginning, at least. Kind of on the longer run, I think everyone could tell too that we were getting a little loose, maybe within the last 10 laps of a fuel run. But yeah, that first run, I was on a mission. I wanted to get to the front and just kind of stay safe out there and lead some laps, Being my first race of the season, I'm very happy with the result. We led some laps, represented Burton Kligerman Esports and NASCAR America on NBC.
Now, one thing I want to talk about, we haven't talked about it as much, is we've seen the sort of day-to-night transition come into the sim. We saw it a little bit at Daytona. We started under the sunlight and ended up getting a little bit into darkness. That Fontana race, as you well know, being as far on the West Coast as I am, starts relatively late in the day, 5:45 session start time. And that's probably going to put us going into the darkness once we get towards the tail end of that. What do you think that's going to do to the cars, and how do you expect that to affect the racing? First time we're going to be seeing really starting in the daylight and really seeing the track and air temperatures really cool down as we get deep into that race.
It's going to be interesting for sure. It'll be interesting to see how, people will set up their cars, either, for, like mid-race or end of race, beginning, whatnot. But I think because the new package is supposed to come out too from iRacing, and no one really knows how that's going to turn out or how it's going to be. But I think it'll bring the racing closer together, and it'll basically be who can find out what first in the car to be really fast.
Thanks for joining us, Logan. Congratulations on a big third-place finish tonight. The car looked absolutely spectacular. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that 99?
Well, thanks to Ashton Crowder. He worked really hard on the setup. It was really, really, really fast. We were missing a little bit of speed, but for my first race of the season, P3 is just absolutely phenomenal. We're up to 17th in points. JD Laird was on top of the box, and then Jeff Burton and Parker Klingerman actually talked to Parker before and after the race. Burton Klingerman Esports, NASCAR America on NBC, weekdays at 5, by the way. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you to PEAK for sponsoring the series, NASCAR for promoting it and such. This series is taking off this year, which is super exciting to see. Thank you to all the fans who tune in. This series wouldn't be what it is without you guys. Thank you to my supporters. I have a lot of support behind my back, and I'm very, very happy for that. And thank you guys for broadcasting.
There he was, Logan Clampett, as always, with a long list of people to thank over there at Clamp Nation. Fourth place finisher, though, tonight, one of the biggest movers all evening. Bobby Zielinski goes from 14th to 4th, and he now finds himself standing by with Mr. Tim Terry.
And a fourth place finish for Bobby Zielinski. But Bobby, let's talk about the restart. It was wild. What did you see?
Definitely wild. I didn't see Timmy having such a big problem with just restarting on those old tires. So I ran in the back of Ray, and that actually gave me some damage to where the last few laps there in the race, I had to kind of back off, clutch it a few times just to keep the engine cool. But yeah, in that situation, being fifth, you're kind of boxed in. You got really nowhere to go. You can't change lanes. So I was just kind of pushing Ray through it. And then, yeah, I just tried to get through 1 and 2. We got out alive, and we came out fourth, and that's where we finished.
And at the end, you had to hold off Keegan Leahy. Talk about that battle at the end to try to hold him off.
Yeah, it's Keegan's a friend. We work together. He's just a good friend, and I knew he knew I was having my issues. Just trying to keep my temps down with a little nose damage, and yeah, he got to run around me in 3 and 4, and yeah, we had a little fun battle. It was cool.
Exit this race 5th place in the point standings. Did you envision this is where you would be after 2 races, especially with Daytona being there, race number 1?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, the Interstate Batteries Toyota's been a great car these first 2 races. And yeah, I had high hopes coming into today. Through testing and preparation, it really felt like a good car. I think we had a little bit more speed to gain to catch someone like Luza. He seemed to have really good short run pace, and then we'd kind of equal out. So, but yeah, I mean, the car could have been a little better, but honestly, that thing drove great, and I'm really happy about it. Everyone that helped prepare did a great job, and yeah, I was hoping to get 3rd there. That's where I was before the last caution, and but yeah, just that restart clamp got by, and then I realized, oh yeah, I guess there's money on the line. I don't think about the money when I'm racing, but well, after the race ended, I was like, dang, could have had like $100 or something, but oh well.
Well, there's always the next race, and let's talk about that next race. You've been in this series long enough to anticipate these new builds and the changes to these Cup cars. What's your next 2 weeks going to look like? How much testing are you going to do, and what do we anticipate going to Auto Club Speedway?
Well, I'm kind of confused on exactly how to prepare because we didn't get a complete confirmed that we're getting the new build and new package for Auto Club, but it's kind of generally believed that we will. So if we are going to get it, this next week is just kind of sitting around waiting because Auto Club is going to be a lot different with the rules package, and we're going to have so much less horsepower, and it's going to be more like a truck. So there's really not much to do until that build comes out. But I think we will do a little preparation just in case it doesn't, just so we're not caught with our pants down, and we only have a week to prepare rather than 2 weeks. So yeah, saying I've been around the series long, it's crazy. It's already my 3rd season, but I think this will be a good year.
You talked about preparation. Who helps you prepare for these races to get this number 18 car to the racetrack?
Yeah, big thanks to Joe Gibbs Racing. It's great to be a part of this organization and be a part of the 18 car, the green 18. I mean, my name is Bobby. Bobby Labonte won a championship in this kind of paint scheme, 19 years ago. So that was cool. Just to, fill that role in the sim racing. Got to thank Virtual Racing School as well on the car. Always a great supporter of me and teaching and all the data packs they offer, coaching. So big thanks to them. Was racing on the beta version of the new direct drive wheel they will be having, so it's going pretty well there. Everyone behind the scenes at Coanda, like Keegan and Chris, I mean, they've been such great teammates to work with this year. And behind the scenes, just testing together, it's been great. And our spotters, specifically on my car, Philip Stem, really helped a lot today. Had all the strategy down, and complete race. Really happy.
And brings it home in 4th place. There's Bobby Zielinski, another solid run behind the wheel of the 18 Joe Gibbs Racing entry. And I believe Randy has caught up with our 5th place finisher, Keegan Leahy.
Yep, I got Keegan over here. And Keegan, very good run for you. Qualified well in 4th, came home in 5th. It seemed like it was a relatively quiet night for you. I know we were watching you in the early goings, but you sort of just got separated out, but were really a part of that lead pack all night. Talk me through your night.
Yeah, you pretty much said it right there at the start. Really uneventful night. Not too much happened, except for that last big 5 wide group that we had going down the backstretch on that final restart. That was crazy, and something I was just not used to for the whole night because I didn't really have too many battles. Just kind of held my position in the top 5 the whole race. Yeah, really fun race, and really happy I didn't make any mistakes, and we did pretty good on the pit calls. Just didn't quite have that speed that we wanted to battle for that win.
And now talk me actually through that bit of 5 wide conundrum that you guys all experienced. How stressful is that late race restart and be fanning out 5 wide, probably expecting to have the entire field get junked there and then have everyone get through it? What's sort of the mindset from you and then the relief seeing that the race is still going green?
Do you think I remember what I was thinking there? I barely even remember that event. that was so crazy. I just kind of let my instincts take over and tried to avoid hitting anyone. That's pretty much the main priority, and not let off the gas and try to make it through there before people end up wrecking or something. So, yeah, it worked out. It could have easily ended up in a big wad of cars in the infield, but yeah, it shows the talent of the drivers that are in this series, and we made it through that crazy 5 wide action without causing a wreck.
Fontana in a couple weeks coming off of a big package change we're expecting you to get next week. How much testing do you plan to be doing yourself going into that race in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, we already do a crazy amount of testing, and I can't even imagine what kind of time I'm going to have to put aside to get my head around this new package. Not sure if it's coming this build or this race or not. We'll see. Hasn't been confirmed yet. But yeah, definitely expecting that soon. And just like the real life guys, there's going to be a group that figures something out, and probably going to see a really wide, varying range of speeds for each of the teams. Eventually, people are going to start to converge, figure out the package, and we'll be back to having these really crazy close races like normal. And honestly, with the draft, you might end up getting close racing no matter what, even if the setups are a little bit varied.
Well, thanks for joining us, Keegan. Congratulations on a nice, strong top 5 here in the second round of 2019. Before we let you go, who gets it done for you over there at G2 Esports?
Yeah, well, first I got to say, really unfortunate for your time. My teammate, he ended up in a wreck today. But thanks so much to Chris Shearburn and Bobby Zielinski for the work on the setup this week. Virtual Racing School on the hood. That's a big deal for me. I'm really happy with being able to represent such a good company, and plus esports, and then Coanda for the support this week, especially Mitchell DeYoung, who was spotting for me and called a really good race.
There he was. Mr. Keegan Leahy comes home with a fantastic 5th place finish tonight. Evan, back over to you.
Well, as always, a big thanks to the drivers for giving us some time here post-race. Ryan Lewis, Zach Novak, and Logan Clampett. They're in the money, 1, 2, 3, but also Bobby Zielinski and Keegan Leahy for chatting with us post-race. As 2 races now complete into 2019. Randy, our first taste of what I think the majority of the season will look like. But again, the big caveat is this could be a completely different look when we go to Fontana, not only because we're talking about a big 2-mile track, but of course the new iRacing build. These drivers have been dealing with changes like that on this iRacing service every single year. but this next week, I should say, may be one of the most interesting.
It really is, and it's not only that, but it's compounded by the fact I talked about it earlier with one of the interviews is, having the race potentially running from, relatively late in the evening, a 5:45 session start time is going to be putting us somewhere around 6:10 when that green flag waves. You're going to be running pretty much into darkness there at Fontana, and that's not something we've seen in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series ever before. That in and of itself has potential to really change how that race is going to run, and if we get a new package, that's just shakeups upon shakeups there. I am really excited to see how this third race in 2019 goes.
The next 4 races, Tim, all different from one another. Fontana, a 2-miler. You've got Texas, a 1.5. A small track where we go to Richmond Raceway. And then to the big high banks for the first time in many years of Talladega Superspeedway. So 4 races coming up, 4 completely different mediums. And I think the door's still wide open for some drivers to make their marks as we start to get serious here on 2019. Again, the objective after Bristol in August is to be the drivers that qualify into the playoffs.
We chatted off the top of the show about Las Vegas being this racetrack to really start getting in your groove and get into the meat of the season. Yes, Daytona is what it is. It's a super speedway. It's a wild card per se. But now Las Vegas is in the book. And you mentioned 4 different racetracks coming up in the next 4 races. It's going to really set the tone for who is going to be a playoff contender early in this season to really set themselves up for those 4 races. And these next four races might have some drivers scrambling as they get into the summer months of this season. It's going to tell a tale. And as we mentioned, we could have a new build coming up for Fontana for Auto Club Speedway. So that could change everything as well. Great race here tonight. Really looking forward to 2 weeks' time at Auto Club.
So good nights for Ryan Luza and Zach Novak, of course, coming off a good night for them 2 weeks ago. There's a look at our championship standings out of this evening. Zach Novak, no doubt, with a P1 and a P2 leads the way. Luza right there as well, though, just 3 points off his second all the way down through your top 10. That does it for us, though, here tonight from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. There's a lot of people that we need to thank, the folks behind the scenes that make these broadcasts possible. Elise Van Ballo and TrackCams22.com for giving us the camera angles and word designs for the broadcast graphics package. Simon Grossman for working on our broadcast CG, and Nick Thyssen for our live timing, which you can tune in on during any race, racebot.tv/timing. Of course, though, for your broadcast team tonight, a big thanks to Justin Prince for being our background support, for our director, Hugo Louise, for Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and myself, Evan Pasoko. We want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Ryan Luza. It didn't take long. He's the winner in 2019. We hope to catch you next time out in 2 weeks' time, Tuesday, March the 12th, from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Las Vegas.